Mark, come on, don't do this. I mean, I understand it completely. I mean, I'm gonna defend you, but come on. Episode 10 of season 2 just dropped, and instead of it feeling like just a normal season finale, this feels like it could have been a series finale instead. I mean, just seeing Mark and Helly run away, that not only gave me The Graduate vibes because of the music that's playing in the background, but it also made me think of Butch and the Sundance Kid and how it freeze-framed on that last shot of them. The way that the series could have ended just right here and leave it up to everyone's interpretation, it works. But of course, the show got renewed for season 3, which I'm a big fan of, but with the big closures that we've gotten with this season 2 finale, oh my god, I wonder how the hell they're gonna pull off a season 3. Oh, by the way, I'm Randy, and I wanna just talk about how crazy this episode was. Because not only did we finally get the revelation on what Cold Harbor actually was, confirming a ton of different fan theories about what they were doing with Gemma, and proving me absolutely correct, because one thing I didn't say before was that I thought that every single room that Gemma entered was a different split personality, was a different severed self. And right over here, of course, 24 and now 25 separate versions of her split across all of these different rooms over here. Everything that Mark has been doing in macro data refinement is just for this, controlling her tempers. We finally get the entire purpose of this mysterious work that they've been doing the entire time. Which leads to the question, if Mark was doing Gemma the entire time, who have everyone else been doing? The macro data department couldn't have just been for show, right? There's still so much more that we have to uncover in that side of the story over here. And plus, we still don't have an inkling on how Gemma ended up in Lumen in the first place. I still have my theories that she actually volunteered to go into this program without knowing what it actually required of her. But that's something else entirely. I think the main thing people are going to be talking about this episode is just Mark S in general, any Mark. Because right at the end, he takes a move that none of us were really expecting and not going out with Gemma. Something that was in the back of my mind the second that he started going against regular Audi Mark. The scene in the cabin with them going back and forth is so frustrating because of the way that they can't really understand each other and the way that they eventually do, but any Mark comes to the conclusion that it might not be his best interest. And he still, of course, for every correct reason, he still doesn't trust Miss Cobell. Seeing this dynamic between Mark Innie and Mark Audi was very interesting because we also picked up on some good parallels that were going around from both of their characters. I mean, Audi Mark mispronouncing Helly's name immediately triggered him in the same way that when Helen said Gemma's name incorrectly to Audi Mark, it did that same effect to both of them. The way that they feel about their significant others, whether it be Helly or Gemma, it's the exact same. It comes to the same root cause. So of course they're gonna be just as drastic as each other. Mark and Mark S are both the type of people to do whatever it takes to be with their significant other. It just so happened here that now we're left up into the air in terms of what's gonna happen with our characters. I mean, the doctor over here screamed out, they'll kill them all as soon as Mark and Gemma escaped from that bottom floor. We don't really know what the future holds for any of our characters at this point because of the entire mess that's going on. But I think that in the interest of self-preservation, Innie Mark did his absolute best. He did what probably is going to end up saving them, and what I think is going to lead to an interesting twist in season 3. But I'll get to that when I talk about my theories on what I think season 3 is gonna be about. Milchek, every single episode goes from being hateable to likable to hateable to likable. He's a guy that just flips on a dime. I mean, sometimes I wanna see this guy just break free from Lumen, and other times I just wanna see this guy get absolutely bodied. I mean, also, plus, seeing Milchek just bust some new moves over here with the introduction of this marching band, that kind of makes you just not want to hate him all too much. This guy can move, and he's been proven to move before as well. I mean, I was cheering for him a little bit when we saw this statue of Kier start to absolutely roast the guy, but then, of course, once he started to actually chase down Mark and Helly, that is when my tune changed. He's such a complex character, and we got to see how that ends up going down. The only character that had some sort of good ending or some sort of conclusion to how he feels with himself is Dylan, because of the note that his Audi gave to his Innie. The one that is so heartwarming, saying that, hey, I want you to keep existing because you're the part of me that I want to be. You're the person that my wife loves, and that's the person that I want to eventually become again. That was so touching because it shows that Dylan, no matter what version of him, he is still this good-hearted guy. And of course, he does act on his emotions, but come on. Seeing Dylan come to terms with both his Innie and his Audi was so nice to see. They got to a happy middle ground until the whole mess started to arise. I'll tell you, the marching band situation over here was pretty crazy. At first, I was like, what are they doing over here? But of course, they turned out to be their own special department underground. So that means all of them are indeed severed. And as we've seen the entire Sever floor join together to actually face Milchek. And on the other side of this, we finally got to see what the purpose of the goats were. Every time one of these macro data projects is completed, it looks like one of these goats is sacrificed to go to the afterlife or to lead a person to Kier, it seems. And as we've seen so far, more than 24 goats have already been sacrificed. Miss Brienne of Tar over here, Gwendolyn Christie, she did a phenomenal job over here being an absolute unit, taking out Mr. Drummond. It was an immovable force versus an unstoppable object. And at the end of the day, that's what allowed Mark to go down to the bottom floor. And we see that Mark just accidentally kills this guy involuntarily. I mean, the second that Chip gets activated, his whole body tenses up like he just got electrocuted. And I gotta say, I'm not sad in the slightest. This guy was just trash the entire time, telling everyone what to do and confronting Seth over here for using big words. Devour feculence in hell, sir. That is exactly what you deserve. And down at the basement, what we saw were that fan theories were correct in terms of the crib being named Cold Harbor, because it related exactly to what that room was about. Dismantling this baby crib and trying to see if whether Gemma still had some sort of connection or some sort of lingering attachment to the idea of children. It looks like the entire idea of keeping her down here is in fact to just torture her to see if they can rile her up. And with the 25th project being done, that of course would make it so that she doesn't feel anything at all, completely taming all of her tempers so that she doesn't actually have any negative emotion, which looks to be Lumen's end goal for everyone. Her reunion with Mark was touching, and now she's free, so hopefully she can get away from all of this, or she's gonna have to stage some sort of attack or plan to come and take Mark out of this, which is just completely up in the air in terms of how that's gonna go down. One of the more interesting things that we saw in this episode was also the relationship between Mark and Helly in terms of how Mark just so deeply cares for her. I mean, their conversation about naming places that exist on the outside world was so special, talking about Delaware, Europe, Zimbabwe, and of course the equator. Them talking like this is their final moments together from what Miss Cobell told the innie. I mean, this was an incredibly special moment for them. See you at the equator might as well be the same thing as meet me in Montauk. The connections to Eternal Sunshine still stand, but here more and more we get that emphasis on how Mark just completely loves Helly in the same way that Audi Mark loves Gemma. You can't put one above the other because to both characters, it's very real. And while I did say earlier that this is probably the best course of action that Mark could have taken to make sure that the innies could have stayed alive, Helly still probably had a chance because Jamie Egan over here, the creep himself, who we got confirmed having illegitimate children, came in and told Helly that he doesn't love his daughter and that he actually sees Kier inside of her. So I think regardless of the choice Mark would have taken, there are still greater plans for Helly at large, no matter what route the story would have taken. Though I do wonder just how far they're gonna go into talking about the extended family of the Egans. I mean, are they gonna go and feed in that theory about Rickon actually being part Egan because he has that same hairstyle or something like that? Who knows? I don't know, but I do think we're gonna see at least a little bit more of that in season 3. But this oncoming storm that we're seeing over here, the deactivation of all these innies, it's something that I think was effectively always gonna be coming. I mean, that's the reason why Irv was sent off. That's what Miss Cobell told Innie Mark, that this was their last chance for anything. The actions that they did over here probably ended up saving them because they got out the only thing that was keeping them alive. Without Gemma, they probably have to restart that process all over again using the new innies, which have just so happened to basically volunteer themselves. Which is where I think season 3 is gonna be starting at. Where unless we come back to Mark and Helly at this exact moment in time, honestly, I think that season 3 might actually do something completely different. I think that it might involve a cast of completely new innies. Innies that are brand new to the idea of this new, mysterious, important work. And what they're unknowingly doing is building up these personalities, these tempers for Mark, Helly, everyone that was just caught in this floor. And then season 3 might have to be breaking them out instead. I don't know. That's just the thought that I had. I don't think Lumen is gonna be able to forgive Mark for so easily killing Mr. Drummond. I mean, that was pretty wild right there, and I don't think that these innies are gonna have a shot to go home. So I think picking up with a different group is probably probably gonna be what makes sense for these characters, with Devin and Cobell being supporting characters on the side, helping this new team as they just go along with this new mission that they've got. Or maybe it's something else, where Helly's gonna be given the position that's maybe a little bit higher, a little bit more in control, and she's gonna be able to try and find out some way to free everyone else that just got trapped. We just have to see, because Severance has just been able to stump us every step of the way. It's a story that's hard to predict, and I absolutely adore it. This last episode was phenomenal in terms of everything that it did in terms of the characters and actually building up how they feel with one another. And I think that if the series ended right here, that it would have been a perfect place to stop. Now, is it my favorite episode of the series or of the season? No. That honor belongs to episode 7 because of the cinematography and everything that it was doing there. It just felt so special to see Audi Mark's life throughout this entire period of time that he was with Gemma. But this episode does some really nice things too, in that it cuts back to that same kind of film grain aesthetic, just as was used in episode 7, but it uses it instead for Mark and Helly as they run away into the sunset, so to speak. This episode served to really highlight just how similar all of these characters are from their Audi selves, and I think it did an exceptional job of that. Now, with season 3 being greenlit, I hope it does not take as long as that wait in between season 1 and season 2 did. Then again, there was a whole writer's strike that happened in the middle of it, so that's what really stopped us. But really, I just want to know where the story's gonna go. What more do they have planned? It's gonna be really hard to top where they're at right now. And I mean, I still want to see some characters come back. I need Irv to get his butt back on that train and back to where this Lumen facility is. Some way, somehow, he needs to help free all the others. But yeah, that's what I think so far. I would say, what do you guys think about the season finale of Severance right over here? Do you guys absolutely enjoy it? Did it answer all the questions that you had? Or do you maybe hate it? Or maybe it just gave you so many more questions that maybe I didn't even bring up in this video? Please let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to know what you guys think about this series, about this season, about this episode. So just lay it all on me right here. As always, I was Randy, and I'll be seeing y'all next time. Peace.